Guru Vaishnav Guru Parampara ki jai. Shri Kartik Bhatt ki jai. Gaur Premanande. So, evening everyone. So I thought we'd talk a little bit tonight about the Kartik month. And this will be the last meeting that we have before I leave tomorrow for Saragrahi for a few weeks. And you'll be observing the Kartik month here, as you have been, beginning yesterday. And of course it will be observed at Saragrahi also, and at Madhavan and all around the world by the grace of our Guru Maharaj Pujapadesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who took Krishna consciousness so far and wide in his great preaching campaign. So now there are temples all over the world celebrating a festival that is very prominent in India, especially the culmination of the festival with the Diwali or Anukut. That is commemorated by devotees throughout the month by the lighting of lamps and so forth. Deepa means lamp. So, what is the significance of this month and the activities that we engage in during the month? Principally, the activities that we engage in are an increase in what Jiva Goswami has termed Swarup Siddha Bhakti. Increasing our engagement in those activities that are inherently bhakti, whether you know them or not, to be so and engage in them. Still they constitute bhakti, and there's some benefit for us, as we were hearing this morning from Duri Kadambini. Bhakti seeks no prerequisite. She is the essence of the Swarup Shakti of Krishna. Samtaranga Shakti, so she has inherent power to purify us, regardless of our condition. Other paths like karma yoga, or jnana yoga, they require some prerequisite. Certain things need to be in place in order to engage in them, and if they're not in place, then it becomes a big problem. In karma yoga and in jnana yoga in different ways. In karma yoga you can get the opposite result of what you might want, or a different result, no result. In jnana yoga, if you don't do it right, you can get dismissed altogether. So bhakti is very generous and independent, and is constituted, as I say, of the internal energy of Krishna, which is constituted of Sandini, Samvit and Ladini. These are kind of accentuated ideas, experiences of Sat, Chit and Ananda, which we are constituted of. With the ingress of Swarup Shakti, then we have power and capacity and eligibility to engage in the Lord's pastimes that are conducted under the influence of that Swarup Shakti. So, this is a good month for seeking that a greater infusion of that Shakti. And Rupa Goswami has singled it out as the observance of the Damodar Vrat, Damodar month, Urja Vrata, as it's called in the Padma Purana. Singled it out as one of the angas, or limbs of the body of Krishna Bhakti. There he cites Padma Purana, and which is glorifying in that section the month of Damodar. Damodar is another name for this month, Kartik, Damodar. Damodar refers to one of the many prominent leelas that occurred during this month, during the manifest leela of Krishna. Damodar leela being the binding of Krishna's belly, Udara, with ropes, Damodar, on the part of Mother Yasoda. Very touching scene with deep spiritual significance. So in glorifying the Damodar month, Padma Purana says, Swalpam api Urukaraka. That this Damodar month is very special, and that if one engages in bhakti in this month, one a little bit, Swalpa means a little bit, Ukaraka. The implication of this word is that there are instances when someone does very little and gets a great benefit. Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj liked to speak about this with regard to Thakur Bhakti Vinod's shocking statement that he once made, that I would prefer to stay in Kurukshetra rather than in Vrindavan. Kurukshetra, of course, is famous for the Bhagavad Gita and the great war that the Pandavas were engaged in. And that is far from Vrindavan conceptually, but there's another significant event, a more significant event that took place at Kurukshetra, and that is the Yugal Milan, the meeting of Radha and Krishna after a long time of separation. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. There's a chapter about that meeting. Very touching, very spiritually significant, and at that time, Radhika's need is very great because she comes very close to reuniting with Krishna after having been in separation from him for a long time. But because he is adorned with regal paraphernalia, having ridden there on an elephant, which just means that's like a Cadillac, burns a lot of gas. And elephants eat a couple 100 pounds of food a day. It takes a lot to maintain one and so forth. So to ride in as a prince on an elephant with a big entourage and armies and so on and so forth, and then to meet with these village people who came into the assembly, and were it not for Krishna, they would have been dismissed by the armies and whatnot. For the most part, as unimportant people coming to try to get access to the prince. So, of course, the meeting is significant, and in that meeting, as I say, Radhika comes close to reuniting with Krishna, but she cannot fully reunite with him because she is not meeting him in the environment that is conducive to that kind of a union. That environment being Vrindavan, the pasture land, the forests of Jamuna and Govardhan, and all of Krishna's friends and cows and so on and so forth. This is a very different setting, a regal setting. So Krishna is manifesting Aishvarya. People are treating him like God there. So though she has him pulled aside and so forth and speaks with him, he invites her to Dwarka, something like that, but she won't go. He tells her, my heart is with you. I'm not really in Dwarka. Person is wherever their heart is, so I'm really with you at all times. Pacifies her to some extent. At any rate, her necessity, Bhaktivinoda Thakur reasoned well, is great at that time. Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj gave an example of if you reach in the football game the 1 yard line and then you can't go the final distance, it is such a great disappointment, having come so close. So Radha comes so close, but she cannot fully unite with Krishna. That's Samriddhiman Sambhog, the fourth type and most comprehensive type of Sambhog, or union. There are 4 types of union that correspond with 4 types of separation in Madhurasa. So that's Samriddhiman Sambhog. She couldn't have that there. When Krishna actually returns to Vrindavan, after killing Dantavakra and Mathura and so forth, then she experiences that, and there's no separation after that. But she couldn't have it at that time, so she's close, but circumstances prevented it. So her necessity was very great. And, to use another example, water is not a very valuable commodity. I mean, it's very valuable. You can't live without water. Obviously, it's most important in that sense. But it's readily available for the most part, in our experience. Of course, it ran out again this afternoon for a few minutes, but there's lots of water. But if you're in the desert for some days, then a drop of water. If someone should give you a small bottle of water, you worship them. If someone says, "You want some water?" No, yeah, okay, perhaps. But if you're thirsty in the desert, then that water becomes very valuable. So it's a small thing, water. It's valuable. You can't live without it, and we've got it. There's lots of it. That's why we're alive. So we don't take it as seriously as we would if there was a shortage of it. We would then understand its value. So, at any rate, a little service rendered at the time of great necessity, rendered to the object of our service, of our love, that brings a greater amount of remuneration than service rendered in another circumstance. It might be hard, in other words, to get the service of Radhika. It is. Another name for Radha is Durga. There's the goddess Durga. She is a manifestation of Radha. Durga means difficult, Durga, to go from. The material world is presided over by Durga, and it's difficult to go from. But it also, as they say, she being a manifestation of Radha, Durga is also a name for Radha. It means difficult to go to. Difficult to attain her service. So if we find her at a time of great necessity, then our chances for getting her attention and her service are increased. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur reasoned like this. It's difficult to get the service of Radha in Vrindavan. In some of his prayers, songs, one of them Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings it, and in my bhajan I saw her from a distance. She who Bhaktivinoda is aspiring to become the handmaiden of. But in Kurukshetra then, her necessity is very great. So little bhakti rendered there. This was his thinking. It's very nice. It doesn't mean that Kurukshetra is ontologically a higher place than Vrindavan, but this is a very nice idea. He wanted to enter the Vrindavan spirit. He thought, we'll go there. We'll enter through there. And of course, Mahaprabhu was entering through there in the Ratha Yatra, which commemorates the Krishna's going from Dwaraka to Kurukshetra, which culminates in meeting the Brajavasis. And so this is a kind of an entry point, if you will, auspicious entry point to have access to that Vrindavan Leela. So, Kartik, Padma Purana says, the Damodar month, as it's described there in the same idea, same month, is very special, that because a little bit of service rendered at that time, one gets a great remuneration. This is its speciality. So, amongst the 4 months, Chaturmasya, that occurs during the rainy season and during the monsoon season, it causes the sadhus who travel to slow down and stay, for the most part, in one place, and because they're not moving as much, then they accept certain vows like fasting and so on. Of the 4 months, this is the last of them, and this one is singled out for observance as a limb or anga of the body, angi of bhakti. So it's very special. We have been discussing the 5th chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Narada makes his appearance and schools Vyas, and we're just at the point where he's beginning to school him in the essence of bhakti and the Bhagavatam. Afterwards, he will start to tell his story. And in the context of his story, this idea of the Chaturmasya comes up because during those 4 months, some sadhus, Prabhupada calls them the Bhakti Vedantas, they took shelter at his mother's house, Narada's mother's house, during the rainy season. They were taken care of as sadhus, and so they schooled Narada. And he was a good student, obviously. After they left, he followed them and became the great Narada Muni. So, as I say, of the 4 months, this is the last, and this is one that is emphasized in the context of bhakti. Chaturmasya in itself is not considered just observance, nanga of bhakti. Great Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to observe it. For some years he observed it in a very strict way, and by so doing he sought to set an example, or to exemplify the idea that the bhakti that he was all about, which is easy to misunderstand, Krishna Lila, for example, is difficult to understand, is attained by one who, through the culture of bhakti, Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayodita Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chairotika, has become completely renounced in the material world. It's not a path where we do renunciation for its own sake, but in the context of bhakti, properly performed, then Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam. Very quickly, detachment and knowledge comes. So, he set a very strict example of renunciation, very extremes he went to, and all for the purpose of demonstrating that this bhakti that might be misunderstood by some people and even dismissed by the jnanis. I was reading a commentary on a verse from the Bhagavatam, I believe 11th canto, commentary by a jnani, and the verse was speaking about how bhakti gives liberation. And so he gave his whole explanation how it can't really, it's not really saying that. Only jnana can give liberation. And he established his point on the basis of the idea that the Shruti takes precedence over the Smriti. And in the Shruti, he quoted a Shruti statement, only knowledge can give liberation. And therefore, although the Bhagavatam says bhakti can, it's a Smriti, we can't take it as seriously as the Shruti. And so it has to be seen as, having said that, for the sake of the bhaktas, to encourage them to come in that direction, or something like that. Of course, never mind many other hundreds of statements to that effect in the Bhagavatam, which states itself, it describes itself to be Shruti Saramekam, the essence of the Shruti, for that matter. Originally, according to the Bhagavatam, spoken by Krishna himself to Brahma, which makes it a Shruti in the technical sense. Shruti means that which is heard, Smriti means that which is, after having heard, remembered and reiterated. So that which is directly heard, directly spoken by the Lord is said to be more significant by some than that which is heard and remembered and reiterated. We don't necessarily agree with that. Jiva Goswami has said that the reiteration in the form of the Puranas is a Purana, is a Purna, filling out the idea of the Shruti and making it accessible and understandable, and therefore we give precedence to it. It is the fifth Veda, as the Shruti says itself. So, and amongst those, the Bhagavatam is the supreme Amalam Puranam, spotless Purana, and so forth. So, didn't appreciate his idea. I was itching for the opportunity to respond to him, but he didn't provide the opportunity on his blog. So, anyway, knowledge, jnana, these are considered to be, by the Bhagavad, to be concomitant to bhakti. They follow bhakti like maidservants of the bride. Bhakti is the what does Mahaprabhu say? Vidyavadu jivanam. Vidyavadu jivanam. It is Vidyavadu, is the wife known as knowledge. In the Gita, Krishna says Raj Vidya when he discusses bhakti. It's the king of knowledge. So knowledge comes quickly, detachment comes quickly, and so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur demonstrated that real devotees are renounced. They're not sentimentalists. They're as renounced or more than the Gyanis. They've uprooted material existence altogether, rather than just cut the bamboo off at the top. They've uprooted it and planted something else in its place, the Bhakti Lata. So, he observed the Chaturmasya, but for a purpose at the time, in terms of preaching, we don't find that our Prabhupada did, we don't find that Pujya Patridhar Maharaj did by any measure to the same extent that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did for a few years. At the time he was establishing his mission, at a time when Gaudiya Vaishnavism was thought by a lot of people to be a movement of sentimentalists and sensualists, for that matter. The Leelas of Radha and Krishna, of course, are transcendently erotic, and people who are not transcendently erotic, but erotic, may misunderstand them and may distort them, and so on and so forth. So he wanted to show that if you really understand one who really understands these has no mundane eroticism troubling him. What could be a better example, of course, in the times gone by in the Bhagavatam lore of the Sukadeva Goswami. He had no desire, traveling naked as a young boy and absorbed in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. You cannot be preoccupied with the erotic life of a man and a woman and remain celibate yourself. That would be very, very difficult. The body goes where the mind is. So his mind absorbed in Krishna's pastimes, and his renunciation that corresponds with that tells us something about that, the character of that. The Goswamis did this as well. They set a very extreme example of renunciation at the time of kind of carving out the foundation, digging out the foundation for Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Wanted to establish it as a serious lineage and well-reasoned and so on and so forth. But it had everything that any other lineage would have in it, and more. Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj gave the example of the Goswamis. He said they took, as if they wanted to make a garland out of gemstones, and in order to do so they drilled holes in all the gems. Not easy to do, and then they left the work for putting the string through it for us. So we're not expected to demonstrate such extremes, but Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his time, at the time of Bhakti Vinod, the proverbial seventh Goswami, re-establishing what Gaudiya Vaishnavism really was at a time when the idea about it had been misconstrued to a large extent. So at that time he saw the necessity for this. But amongst the 4 months and the observance of Chaturmasya, which is not in and of itself an anga of bhakti, this observance of Kartika is. And it takes on a whole different feel from the other months. The other months are filled with all types of vows, and there are vows also to be taken in the Damodar month, Urja Brata, but they tend to be, as I said earlier, positive vows, increasing my participation in Swarup Siddha Bhakti, in archan, in deity worship, in hearing, in chanting, remembering the Lord, and so forth. The example given in another section of or maybe the same section of the Padma Purana, I believe it was during the month of Kartik, but I think it was during the month of Kartik. The story is there from the Purana that there was a rat, and he used to go and after the ghee lamp the deepa was offered to the deity, it would be set down, and then the lamp goes out. The rat would come in and chew on those tasty ghee-saturated wicks. And so got accustomed to that, and one day he was so eager for it that he latched on the one that was still lit up. And got attached on his nose, and he was jumping around like this, moving his head in front of the deity, and the deity accepted that he was offering arati. The rat died, and it said he went to Vaikuntha. So a little service in the month of Kartik goes a long way. And also this is an example of Swarup Siddha Bhakti in that the rat didn't know he was offering arti. But Krishna accepted that. Looks like arti. Okay, must be arti. So it has inherent power in it. These activities, this Swarup Siddha Bhakti, that should be embraced, and we should increase our participation in that during the month of Kartik. The Urja Vrata is also called the vows of Urja. Urja means power, resource, and so forth. In his Bhagavatam commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there's a section in the third canto speaking about, I believe, about different plants, trees in Vaikuntha, and nice description there. In his commentary, he mentions the tulsi plant, and the Urja Shakti. He says the Urja Shakti is a particular Shakti that oversees the Leela, kind of like Leela Shakti, and it appears in this world as Tulsi. So the connection between Tulsi and Radha. Urjam is a reference to Radha and this internal Shakti, Leela Shakti, and her resourcefulness. She is the Swayam Shakti, the source of all Shaktis. Krishna is the source of all the Shaktiman. I guess it's kind of hard to talk about. He's the energetic from which the energy comes, but in the context of the energy that comes from the energetic source, she's the primal Shakti. So all other Shaktis are subordinate to her. So it is an emphasis this month on Shakti, and Bhakti is a Shakti. It is the Swarup Shakti of Bhagawan. And she is the personification of the ideal of Bhakti. So this month is about Radha. It is said, Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj said that it was a custom in Vrindavan that people would name their daughters after the daughters of Daksha, Prajapati Daksha. He had lots of daughters. And these names would correspond with different nakshatras, stars, constellations, and so forth. And so Vrishabhanu's wife, her name was Kirtika or Kirtida, same idea. And her daughter is Kirtiki Kumari or Kartiki, a name for Radha. So the month is, in that sense, named after Radha. It is her month. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Margashirshoham, of months. In the 10th canto, Vibhuti Yogi says, of months I am Margashirsha. That is the following month. So I believe Sanatana Goswami reasons, well, if Margashirsha is the following month, Krishna follows Radha. So we usually say Radha Krishna, Radha Govinda, Radha Damodar. It's just by way of saying that Krishna follows Radha. Of course, Prabhupada named the deities in his Chicago temple Kishore, Kishori. And Kishore is the name of Krishna, and Kishori is the name of Radha. So we once asked him, why is it backwards? Why isn't it Kishori Kishore? Why is it Kishore Kishore? He said, oh, save the best for the last. But generally she's mentioned first. So the month that precedes the month that is Krishna, so to speak. Krishna says, of months I am Margashirsha. That is Radha's month, Kartik. And in this month, so many important leelas were played out year after year. The Damodar Leela, as I mentioned, the manifestation of Radha Kund. This Leela took place during Kartik. Of course, the Govardhan Leela is really for Gaudiya people, the culmination of the Kartik month. It ends with the 5 important days, ending with the Diwali, the light festival. This is observed by all kinds of different sects, even Jains and non-Hindus in India observe this light festival. It's kind of, I think, probably the most authentic idea of the Diwali, the light festival, is the idea, it must be in Ramayana, where they lit the lamps all around Ayodhya to greet Ram, who, after having killed Ravana, was coming back after his years of being exiled in the forest with Hanuman or a few others. Very touching scene. So all the Ayodhya is lit up, greeting him back. It is a symbol, symbolizes the victory of good over evil, the light of the self. Go tamasi ma jyoti gama, as it said in the Shruti. Go from the darkness, go to the light of the self, and further. This is, of course, the Devasya Vidma, what is it? Sabitur Bharenyam Bhargo Devasya. Bharenyam Bhargo Devasya. Devasya means Krishna. Bhargo means light. Vidmahe, the petition. The light, that which shines light on Krishna. Prabhupada used to say, Krishna's not particularly beautiful, but standing next to Radha, then he's very, very attractive. So, of course, he's not ever separate from Radha, only an appearance of such is there for the sake of Leela. The idea is that Krishna, basking in the light of his Shakti, Brahman, the Absolute, basking in the light of his internal Shakti, shines brightly, dances, and makes himself thereby available. So, Jai Radhe, as the Gaudiyas like to say, and this is her month, the month of Kartik. It culminates with this Diwali, so the conquering of evil, the good over evil, and right. This is the New Year, the Indian Hindu New Year. This is the harvest season. It's celebrating the harvest moon. And the Rasa Leela is performed on the full moon, Saradiya Purnim, in this month. And it ends, as I say, with the Kartik, with the Govardhan Puja, which is probably the most important and most celebrated of Gaudiya festivals. And a time of celebrating of plenty. Govardhan is a big provider in Krishna Leela for all that is important in Krishna Leela. All of his pastimes are fully facilitated by that great hill. And of course the Govardhan Leela involves lots of prasadam. And again, this corresponds with the harvest season. It's a time of plenty. It's a thanksgiving. It's kind of a Hindu thanksgiving. And so from a very kind of pragmatic, down-to-earth point of view, the harvest festival celebrating the bounty provided by the god. And Govardhan Leela, of course, among other things, establishes what? That Krishna is the god of the gods. And they were worshipping Indra, thinking that he was providing, and Krishna stepped in and said, "Who's he? Without my power, he cannot provide anything." In this Leela, Krishna was crowned Govinda, or Upendra, sometimes referred to maybe in Padma Purana. Means same thing in one sense. So the god of the gods. This is Sarvadharman Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja. This is the doorway to bhakti. Krishna says in the Gita, with the culmination, give up all the gods. Sarvadharman. With the Dharma, there are corresponding gods and goddesses. Give it all up. Sarvadharman Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja. Take shelter of me alone. And don't worry that if you forego the Dharma, you'll be culpable for some kind of sinful reaction. No, I'll cover for you. This is my position. So this is established in the Govardhan Leela, among other things. This is one of the important points of the Leela. All the other gods are being dismissed. Indra is the chief. Indra means chief of the gods. And Krishna demonstrated that his position is nothing in comparison to him. He's the maintainer. And he is Govardhan. He Aradya Bhagavan Brajeshu Tanayas Tadama Vrindavana. He is Vrindavana. He is Govardhan. This is kind of a nice story that seems like kind of an animism, the worship of the mountain, because the mountain provides things for us, and it has that aspect. But if you look deeply at it, theology is considerable, supporting this. The worship of the stone from Govardhan, the worship of the hill of Govardhan. It's, as I say, it corresponds with the conclusion of the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. So, full of festivals this month, full of all commemorating the various Leelas of the Lord. And of course, as I say, while the Govardhan Puja is probably the most significant and widely celebrated Leela of the month, for us there are two other great lights, if you will, worth celebrating in this month, and that is, and it's very beautiful that it occurs in this way, the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada and the appearance of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, both occurring in this month. So for this month, very significant for us in Sri Chaitanya Sangha, who a group, a sect that's founded under their auspices and with their blessings and so forth. So we celebrate the disappearance of Prabhupada that corresponds with the appearance of Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj in our life during the month of Kartik. So these are two extra special days for us amongst so many other days. Prabhupada, of course, left the world in the month of Kartik, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, his disappearance. So he left, and he left with a preoccupation, a twofold preoccupation. He wanted to celebrate Govardhan Puja. He wanted to get on a bullock cart and go around Govardhan Hill. But he was so frail at the time that it would have been a total, medically, it would have been the wrong thing to do. But he wanted to do that, and there was a battle between some of his disciples who wanted to. Guru wants to go, and they said, we're not letting him go on that ride and so forth. But this was his internal and outwardly expressed preoccupation. That and his preoccupation with the Brahma Vimohana Leela that he was in the middle of translating and commenting on. Maybe 12th chapter, I believe, of 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. That Brahma Vimohana Leela is 12, 13, 14. I think he was in the 12th chapter. So, with a desire to perform the Govardhan Puja in his Siddhadeha, he was performing. He couldn't take him in his Sadhaka Deha, although he wanted to go in that one as well. And and preoccupation with, as I say, the Brahma Vimohan Lila. In Brahma Vimohan Lila, we find Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. In Govardhan Lila, we find Sarvadharmam Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja. They go together. The latter, the Gita verse, is also saying the same thing. It's also saying Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. He's the God of all the gods. In Brahma Vimohan Lila, then this comes out when Krishna, of course, shows himself to be all the cowherd boys and calves to Brahma. Brahma had stolen the cows and calves and boys, and Krishna manifested himself as replicas. And then he showed Brahma a mystic vision in which Narayans were emanating from him, and from each Narayan was coming universes, and in each of those universes a Narayan appeared and a Brahma appeared, and this was very extraordinary. I mean, Mahavishnu's opulence is extraordinary. Universes are said to emanate from him. So if Mahavishnus are emanating from you, that is very extraordinary. This is probably the highest display of Aishvarya in all of Krishna's Leela. And of course it occurs in Vrindavan, which is the sweetest, where the Madhurya is fully manifest. So we can understand that the backdrop to the Madhurya is the Aishvarya. In other words, because Krishna is God and he acts like a human, therefore it becomes sweet. So we don't find more Aishvarya anywhere else than in Vrindavan. Of course, everybody didn't see it. We're able to see it through the narration of Sukadeva and so forth. People like us and Brahma, we saw it, and we were to be inspired by that. Because if we understand, as Krishna says in the Gita, Aham sarvasya prabho mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddhabhava samamita. If we understand Krishna, the source of everything, we have then found that center, that supreme enjoyer, the supreme taker, and thus one half of the equation of unalloyed bhakti is in place. If you are to give unlimitedly without reservation, you have to find someone who will take unlimitedly without reservation. This is the idea of Krishna. All types of love. Rasaraj, he can reciprocate in all types of love. So finding him and focusing our devotion on Krishna, then we have the capacity. The other side is it has to be unalloyed without any motive. But, on our part. So anyway, half of the equation is there. He says if you have that in place, then you can begin to do the kind of bhajan that is rag-bhag bhajan. Led, of course, we should say, by the example of Sri Radha. So an important month, and I hope you'll observe it strictly, increase your own participation in the Swarupa Bhakti, and get a calendar, if you don't have them, observe the various days that occur. Gorkashordas Babaji's disappearance occurs also in this month. So many different important days. It's probably the most packed month of festivals. You're supposed to come out of it making every day in your life thereafter a festival in Krishna Bhakti. And although it's just a little done in this month, as I've mentioned, it gives good, extraordinary response. We should try to do a lot. This is a kind of one of the secrets of bhakti here. This Kartik Mas and Urja Brata, this kind of observance, niyama seva, supposed to be controlled in this month, and focus your energy on Bhakti Devi. So, are there any questions? Yes.
I think you've answered this before, but I had a question on the Shruti versus Shruti.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that the Shruti, that's spoken directly from God. So is Bhagavad Gita considered Shruti?
It is. Therefore, sometimes Bhagavad Gita is called Gita-Upanishad. They give it an Upanishad name because it's spoken directly by Krishna. But Bhagavatam is as well. 4 verses, as I mentioned, to Brahma. Therefore, its own statement, Shruti Saru may come. This is the essence of the Shruti. That has to be acknowledged. What else? Govardhan Leela, this is about also, well, that's another thing. Anyway. Jai. Sri Kartik Mas ki Jai, Damodar Manth ki Jai, Urja Vrata ki Jai, Gaud Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Gaud Premanande.